Welcome back to the third part of building Uto's tutorial in DAAD Builder. We're going to start with the third chapter of the tutorial. It's actually quite a short chapter, so we'll probably jump on and do chapter 4 at the same time. Looking at what we have in the chapter 3, looking at how to create the knife. Last time we created the piece of coal, we looked in the fireplace. This time we're going to examine the skeleton in the cell that we could open by pulling the torch, and we'll find the knife when we examine the skeleton. So already here in Process Builder, we want to go into Process 5 as usual, and we're going to go right to the top and we're going to add a new entry. And our new entry is going to be Examine, and we want Skeleton. I don't think we're going to have skeleton here currently, so we can add that into the dictionary and use it straight away. We now want to be at, and we want to be in the cell. We want to add a new contact. We want a message. Message is going to say yellowed bones, empty eye sockets, which is just going to copy across from here. New contact. This time we want to know where the knife is, so we want is at. Object is going to be our knife, and we want that to be not created. If it has not been created, then we want to create it. And we want the object knife. We want a message to tell people that we found a knife inside the skeleton. And I'm just going to copy that one across from here again. And finally, we're done. We then want a new process that if we've already found the knife, it doesn't tell us that all over again. So we're actually going to clone the one we've got already because it's going to be quite similar. We're going to examine the skeleton, we're going to be in the cell, and at that point we don't actually need anything else, so we just delete all of that, and all we want here is a new line. And that's that done. Underneath that it says about adding vocabulary. Well, we've already done that as part of building the process. The rest of this chapter talks about flags and using flags and indirection. Again, if you're not used to DAAD, you haven't worked with DAAD before, this is very well worth reading, especially the section about indirection, which is a very powerful feature. We're now going to go on to the next chapter. In fact, before we start that chapter, let's just have a run through and check that we do find the knife where we expect to. So if we go east again, we go up. We want to pull the torch. We then want to be able to go west. And here we have a description. There's a skeleton on the floor tied with shackles. Let's examine the skeleton. Examine the skeleton, and now there's a knife. Can we get the knife? I now have the knife. Okay, so that's all working well. Let's go back to the tutorial. Now we have a knife, what are we going to do with it? So up in the bedroom there is a bed and a window. The bed has sheets and a mattress cover. The sheets we can pick quite easily. So let's make the sheets appear first. Back into the process editor, process 5. Let's add this to the top, and we want examine. And we want bed. Doesn't appear to be there, so we can add that to the vocabulary and we can use it. We want to know if we're in the bedroom, so we want that to be at, and we want to drop down to here to bedroom, right at the bottom, and we want to know if the sheets have yet been created. So is at object sheets, and not created. If so, we want to create the sheets. We want a message to tell someone that we've found sheets on the bed. We're going to copy that across from the tutorial. Create and save, and finally we're done. So we can now create the sheets. Next it says we want to create a define of F ropes cut. I think we're going to be able to do that when we build the process. So the next thing is to examine the bed again. If we've created the sheet, let's clone that one. And we want to be at the bedroom. We want not is at the sheets. So we want is not at sheets not created. We don't want to create the sheets again. We want actually to create a process entry just between those two, and we want that to be is at the cover. So we want the cover not to have been created, not created. Then we want a message that there's a cover tied to the bed, which we're just going to copy and paste. And that's that one done. Underneath this we're going to add a new process, which is take cover. Cover's not in the dictionary, so we can just add that in and use it. We want to be at the bedroom, which we know is the last one in the list. Add a contact. We want to know if we've cut the ropes yet or not, so we want 0, and this is where we're going to have the flag F cut ropes, which we don't have yet. We can add that in directly here. F ropes cut, create and use. So then we want a message that the cover is firmly tied to the bed. Create and use, and we're done. Then we want to be able to cut the ropes. So we want a new process. We're going to add that underneath, and we want cut. I think cut won't be in the dictionary yet, so we'll create and add that one. And I think ropes won't be in there either, so we'll create and add that. So next we want to be at the bedroom still. It's all going to take place in the bedroom. We want to add a contact, is not at, and we want our object to be sheets, and we want them to be not created. Add a contact, and we want is at, O cover, and we want those to be not created. Next we want to know we're carrying the knife, so we want carried, and we're going to pop in the knife. We now want to check if we've already cut the ropes before, so we want 0, not double Z, 0, and we want the flag we just created, so highlight that, say FR for start of that, F ropes cut, and we then want to set ropes cut. Next we want to create our cover. We want a message, and we're going to copy and paste that across from the tutorial. And finally, we're done. So then we go through, it explains what all the various steps are that we've just created. And then we want to add some control entries for unexpected situations. Cutting the ropes and cutting the cover. So cutting the ropes if we've already cut the ropes. So we'll just clone that one. And we're probably going to delete everything out of that. So we'll add the bedroom, we don't want that, we don't want that, we don't want that. We want this to be not 0. We're not going to set that, we're not going to create that, and we just want a message that we've already cut the ropes. Okay, so now we want to look at cutting the cover. Let's clone that one again. This time we're going to change this to be cover, which we have in the dictionary already. So we're at the bedroom. We want this to be 0. And we want a message to say it's not a good idea to go around cutting the cover. And we're done. Okay, so what to do now we have the cover and the sheets, we can tie them together. Tutorial again says we'll create a couple of defines. We don't need to do that, we can do that in place. So we need to add some code. Let's add a new process underneath. We want tie, which I think is going to be a new word again. And we want sheets, which we have there already. What happened to tie? What's vocabulary and use? Okay. Now we want a preposition, and we want that to be with. Add that to the dictionary and use it. We want a noun, because we're going to tie something to something. Noun to, and we're going to tie the sheets to the cover. Next we want to know we're actually carrying those things to be able to tie them together. Carried sheets and carried cover. If we have both of those together, we should be able to tie them. Want to check we haven't done this already. So 0, and we have a new flag here, which is F cover sheets tied. Copy. We're going to create a new flag and use that. So we now want to set. And we should have in here the flag we've just created. F cover sheet tied. So having set that, we want a message to say we've tied those sheets together. So on a quick at the bottom, message, creating that, and then we are done with that one. Now we have the same thing again, because we can tie the sheets with the cover, but we can also tie the cover with the sheets. Well, don't want to type all of that again. Let's just clone this, and we'll swap this over to be cover, and we'll swap this over to be sheets. And the rest of that is all the same, so we don't need to do any more on that one. Right, so now the sheets and the cover can be tied, we have to prevent some actions. Drop the cover, drop the sheets. So we want a new one after tying, and we're going to add in here, drop cover, We want to add in a contact. So the first one we want is to be carried. Object cover. We want to check not 0. 0 on the flag we just created, which was F cover. DAAD. We want a message on there, and we're going to copy that across. Create and use, and then we're done. Next one is drop sheets. This is pretty much the same thing again, so let's just clone that. In the clone we want to change this to be sheets. Carried. It's not the cover this time, we want to see if we're carrying the sheets. Flag is the same, and we just want to change the message. And that's done. Those two entries will prevent you dropping the covers or the sheets while they're tied. Now let's check how we can tie them to the bed. Okay, so we want to add in a new entry underneath these ones. We want tie, which we already have in there from before. We want sheets. We want a preposition because we're tying them to something. We're tying to. We want noun to, because we need an object that we're going to tie to, and that's going to be the bed. Now we need to check whether we're actually carrying those things in the first place. Carried. We want sheets. We want to add another one of carried to see if we're carrying the cover as well. And then we're going to want to check to see whether they're actually tied together anyway. So we want that to be 0. And we want the flag we just created. Copy. So if they haven't been tied together, they're not long enough to climb down out of the window. So let's add that message in. Create and use, and then we're done. So we have the same thing again, but this time with the cover. So let's just clone that. This time round we want the cover. We're tying it to the bed, we're carrying all of that, and it's going to be the same message that we're using in there. That's all exactly the same. Done. Right. So the next thing we have is tie the cover to the bed. If we're carrying all of those, this looks again very much like what we've just created. So let's clone that. We're going to tie the cover to the bed. We're carrying the sheets, we're carrying the cover. This needs to be not 0. To see whether we've actually already tied it all together. Not 0. Then we want a new flag here. Copy. So let's add underneath there our new flag 0. Create a new flag. Create and use. Now we have a message, which one we haven't had before, so create and add that. And then we need one more entry in here. We need to set our new flag. So let's cover over there. F cover. Sheets to bed. Okay, that's all done. We have the same thing again, so once more we're just going to clone that. This time round we're going to change that to be sheets to the bed, carried the sheets, carried the cover, check all of those things. same message, and we're done. Right, okay. Finally, if the whole pack is tied, you can climb down and you can escape. Brilliant. Okay, so let's add our final one here, which is climb. Not in the dictionary. Add that to the dictionary and use. We want to check that we're at the bedroom. We want to check that we've actually tied all of this together and tied it to the bed. So we want F cover tied to bed. We want a message to say that we've done that and the game is now over. Copy that, add that, create and use. And finally, this time we want something different. We want an end to say the game has ended. And that's it, we're done. That's it for chapters 3 and 4. Let's head into the test adventure and see what we've done so far. From the first room we know we can go east twice and we can go up the stairs. We then pull the torch, opening a passage to the west. We can go west and examine the skeleton. We find a knife. If we get the knife, we can go east. We can go up. We're now in the bedroom. If we examine the bed, we find the sheets. Let's get the sheets. Examine the bed again, and we see a cover tied to the bed with ropes. Let's try and get the cover. We can't, it's tied firmly to the bed. So since we have the knife, let's cut the ropes and get the cover. Let's try cutting the cover. Can't do that. Okay, so let's now try and tie cover with sheets. We tie the sheet and the cover. Let's now tie cover to bed. Tie the cover and the sheets to the bed. You can climb down now. Let's try and climb. We climb down with the help of the sheets and cover and escape from the tower. We have won. Game over. Well, that's it for the end of this tutorial. I think there's one more chapter left, which deals with events that happen as you work your way through the game. We'll deal with that in the next video and look at a few more features of DAAD Builder at the same time. See you then.